And if not, we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Goldstein?
If you will look at the cash statements that you were given.
Now, you guys have a cash statement that came in your pack, and then you were handed a new cash statement, which covers everything up until today, when you sat at the table. And there's usually a small difference, and that was either money being transferred out or this bill being paid.
You also will have a statement from last year at this time to compare to this year at this time.
Or the budget
For the
numbers.
budget and numbers. We were very fortunate that this month,
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
we just received a check from the county for $900,000. We were way down, we were down to $26,000 last year at this time. So this will help us pay our expenses for the next 3-4 months. And hopefully by then we'll get another check before the end of the year, which we've got our fingers crossed. We're pretty well in line with what our revenues are as compared to last year. And our expenses are also pretty well online for the first 4 months of the year. We've used, for example, on salary, a little over 33%, which is proper for this time. Right now, we're in good shape. Thank you.
Now, are there any questions about the income statement or the expense statement? The budgeted line items, you'll see the percentage used at the end. There are big variances in the percentage used. There are things that get paid monthly, so you can pretty much figure out month per month what that percentage of 12 months would be. There are databases that get paid for either in one lump sum or 2 big lump sums during the course of the year. So they'll go from 0 to 75% in the course of a month. But the big deal is at the end, we're gonna try to get as close to 100% possible as possible in all categories.
You will actually look and see that one of our figures, our insurance went up quite a bit only because we had 3 payments this last month. Because the first of the month we paid it in 2 weeks. That figure is out of line, but it'll rectify itself by next month. Otherwise, I think we're okay.
I do have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Could you please explain to me the utilities for $2,207.52? Which utilities do they cover?
I'm sorry, which one are you talking about?
Line 7060.
Too many pages.
Yes.
Well, I was reading in the library that we don't pay utilities.
Gas, water, and sewer.
We do not pay electrical,
We do.
we do not pay electrical,
Right,
but we pay for gas.
we do pay gas?
Yes,
Okay,
the gas is not part of the compact.
okay.
We pay for our water and we pay for our sewage.
And can you please tell us what professional services on line 8130 were paid for
And we'll have
$3,865?
to look at the check register to see that. Just EVP? Okay. Okay.
The 33040,
Mhm.
Peregrine Newman, $1,890
That's our attorney.
for,
It's a couple of routine questions from the board, plus we've had a longstanding and just resolved issue with the Illinois Department of Employment Security, IDES,
Unemployment.
unemployment issue with an employee. We resolved that. Or actually, the issue was with the state, so they were billing us for that. Also, out of professional services comes our monthly charge from ADP, which handles our payroll. and our HR services.
What, I'm sorry?
HR, human resources.
Thank you.
Mhm.
On the check register,
All right, we'll move on to the check register.
33037, Life Storage of Morton Grove.
Right.
The books that we take out of circulation, that we don't have room for any longer, but still are needed to be kept in the collection, are now stored off-site.
Are those our books or are those the Friends' books?
Those are our books.
We just have no place to put them other than.
I understand, I just am aware that the Friends was also looking for storage. Can you tell me who Bob Hirsch is? Bob Hirsch?
He was a balloon artist.
Thank you so much.
There are paid receipts for all of these things for your inspection at any time.
Thank you so much.
And what did we pay the plumber $1,200 for?
We had some issues with the valves relating to the fire suppression system, and we had a couple of leaking coils.
Did that include the car accident?
Um,
Is it part of?
No, I don't think that was part of it. That was resolved a month or two ago.
We had a
Just
gentleman
like landscaping.
missed the turn into the library and hit the standpipe outside of the back of the room and caused some damage to the fire department standpipe, which all needed to be replaced along with some landscaping, which his insurance is funding 100%. Any other questions, check register wise? If not, we thank you, Mr. Goldstein. And the next finance committee meeting would be when is that?
We meet on
June
the
7th,
Tuesday prior to our regular meeting.
that'll be June 7th. At 5 p.m. Thanks, Blanche, for reminding me. All right, there are no other committee reports this evening. There is no Friends of the Library report, I don't believe. I would like to blow through the librarian's report.
We can do that.
You will find out that one thing librarians do is keep track of stuff. You like to put data in forms and graphs.
So if you've read the whole 91 pages, you're
Yeah,
covered.
did.
And so I will leave it, I will make it very, very simple. Welcome to the new trustees. You've taken on a momentous and important role in our community. This library is heavily used. It is a very popular institution, and you're now responsible for it. Now, if I were cynical, I'd say good luck, but I'm not. And I will say that I am here, and my staff is here to help you at any time with any question you may have. My door is always open, and I won't give it to you in front of this large organization, but you will have access to my cell phone number, so if you need to reach me after hours, you are certainly welcome to do so. My goal is to make your job as easy and as productive as possible. My staff's goal is to make your job as easy and productive as possible. We're all librarians. Our role is to be as transparent and as direct and as straightforward as possible. I have a bad habit of being rather blunt at times, so if I offend anybody, my apologies ahead of time, and I will try and apologize as often as possible afterwards as well. That having been said, I do hope that you will take the opportunity to meet with me anytime, during normal library hours, after library hours, whenever. I would like the opportunity to introduce you to the staff here. A few people are here right now. We have Caitlin Savage, who is the head of circulation. We have Natalia Fishman, who's the head of adult reference. Kevin Justy, who is the assistant director and head of network and information systems, or something like that. It keeps changing. But if the electrons are flowing, it's because of Kevin. And then we have Karina, who is in programming. We have Nancy, who's in programming. And we have Rosetta Metz, who is in charge of outreach, marketing, programming, and anything that the public sees that gets plastered on the wall. It's very, very important in that way. I would also like to recognize that 36-year trustee Estelle Cooperman is here. This room is named after her. Much of what this library is due to Estelle and all the trustees that have worked with her over the years. So you are standing on the shoulders of some very dedicated people in terms of functioning. So again, please, again, please avail yourself of our services, both in terms of Operation This Library and any reference question you might have. We're here to help you. And again, please make the time to meet with me. I am very flexible in my hours, and I will be glad to show you around and introduce you to as many of the staff as possible. And I will make it at the end of my report instead of leading you through the 20 or 30 pages I did want to talk about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it. All right, are we,
New business.
new business, is the website redesign bids a?
We really need to move on that one.
Adjust?
We need to move on that one, if we will. In your packet were 3 bids for website redesign. Kevin and I met with the representatives from each of these firms at least twice to discuss the initial bids and revisions we wanted to make, and then they came back with revised bids. We sat down later, Kevin and I, and went through our analysis of the 3 bids. And those bids were, well, we had four firms, AmericanEagle.com of Park Ridge, Web Linux of Oswego, Illinois, Liquid Print of Lincolnwood, and Situated Research of Naperville. We evaluated these firms on the basis of timeline, level of support for the project by vendor. In other words, what kind of team would they put together and how would they manage the project? Level of involvement of local staff. In other words, how would our staff work with them? How many revision cycles might we have? How often would they be meeting with us in terms of presenting options and then revising based on those suggestions? Because really, a website redesign is not something you pull out of a can. And we need to see things as they interpret them to make sure they're right. And I spent 20 years in the software design industry. This is not a simple project. So that was very important to us. We looked at the products they use. Nobody does custom code anymore. They gather modules from various other providers, and we wanted to see what they had in the content management system, the security pieces, the photographic galleries that we might use, and then the front end website piece itself. There's a lot of different pieces that go into that. We looked at the vendor's experience with libraries and other institutions like libraries, and we classified those as park districts and schools, elementary schools. And then finally, cost. Because this project is being paid for by the per capita grant, whenever we request a per capita grant, and we'll be doing this again in August, the state requires us to specify what the money will be spent for once the grant, if it is awarded, And once that grant is awarded for that specific purpose, we can't really use it for anything else. So we were awarded $22,600 and something for this year for website redesign. So that's what we've got to spend. So cost wasn't a real issue. It isn't a budgeted item. It's a grant directly from the state and supporting us. In looking at these, first, Situated Research did not provide a bid in a timely fashion. I have not received one as of 5 o'clock today. Of the remaining 3 vendors, all ranked equally on the timeline. We felt they could get the job done in the time we wanted, which we were looking at September, October. So we'd have it rolled out at the beginning of the school year or close to. Good timeline on that. They all said they could do it in that time, looking at their on-time specs, we felt they could do that. However, American Eagle ranked first in level of support for the project by the vendor. They had the largest team, and they had the most developed process for management. They ranked first in level of involvement of local staff. They gave us a limited number of revision cycles. Now, we wouldn't go for an unlimited number of revision cycles because we'd never ever get done. So we will certainly, it behoves us to cap that at a reasonable number, but they weren't going to lock us at a maximum number. The other vendors were going to do that. So we'd have some chances to fine tune this. We're not going to go for 100 revision cycles. We're not going to go for 200. The functionality of their software modules, particularly their content management system, seems superior to the others. I was interested in and impressed with the ease of use and the completeness of their content management system. Some of you may be familiar with the website. It's something that you see when you Google a site. For a library, for a public institution, for any large institution, there's a lot more now. Actually, what you see is the proverbial tip of the iceberg. For us, the operative piece is really the content management aspect. Right now, all of our policies, all of our procedures, our phone lists, most of the documentation that makes this place run is embedded in our website. But because we're running in an HTML environment, it's very cumbersome. It requires a lot of manual work to update and maintain. When you use a website that has a content management system behind it, you have a more word processor / blog-like operation to allow you to manage all this data more seamlessly and much more effectively. American Eagle had a very nice content management system. They also had a very extensive security system to go along with that. We would be able to secure each page of the content management system separate from every other page. So if we wanted to do a piece of policy, we could make sure only certain people could update that, whereas we could have it sitting next to another page where we might want anybody to be able to update on the staff. So that level of granularity in the security was very, very important to us. And they ranked first on that. They also have very extensive experience in dealing with public libraries. They've done Park Ridge, I suggest you go take a look at the Park Ridge website. They've done a couple of district libraries. They've also done a lot of park districts. And they have done a large number of public schools. They've also done institutions like the White House. So they clearly know their business. So based on that analysis, AmericanEagle.com is our recommended vendor. They do come in under the amount that we have set aside in the grant, so we're okay with that as well.
Now, this would be a different view for the public user,
Yes.
Going for the catalog or database. This is
Right. A couple of things drive the need to do this. First and foremost, the original website, which was developed in-house, like you can, was done.
award-winning.
It was award-winning. Yeah. However, that was several years ago.
Yeah.
Not to diminish his effort on this. But it was designed to a different set of goals than is currently expected from a public library. It was designed as a finding aid. If you look at it now, the core piece in the center of the screen is here's this section, here's how you find that, here's this section, here you find that. And what we've had to do over the last 5.5, 6 years is attempt to turn it into more of a marketing tool that leads you to our services that we offer, and not those things that the library is. Services is an increasing part of what a library does. For example, our programming has gone in the last 6 years from where we've had 18,000 people a year come to programs here to where we have 38,000 people a year come to programs here. So we've layered in an event calendar. We've expanded our database offerings. So access to the databases, which is several jumps deep in our website, which should be right on the top, is in there also, and is a growing and expanding piece. We now are on Facebook, we're on Flickr, we've got a Twitter account. All that stuff is kind of layered around the edges of this and needs to be integrated better. Those are beyond our ability to do really effectively, and if we were to undertake this kind of project with in-house staff, we would basically have to stop doing almost everything but youth services and adult reference. to be able to pull the manpower in to do that. We really don't have to train to do this. We can get this done in 4 or 5 months with these people at a very cost-effective rate, so this is one of the reasons we need to do this. The other thing is over the last few months, we've noticed a downtick in the number of hits on our website. Now, we could assume that fewer people are coming here, but we know that's not true. Our circulation has gone up double digits every month for the last several years. New services is up almost 30% just this last month. So we know usage is up. We know people are coming in the door. We know program use is up. So my take is, from looking at some of our analytics, is that our website is, sorry Kevin, boring. And we need to do something to revitalize it so that people come back and understand our experience better and understand what this library is better. And redesign the website is the only way to do that. Question?
How many hits a day do we get now?
Right now we're getting, it's in my
It's
stats.
on the monthly report.
It's
So
like
it's
6.
7,000, 8,000 right now,
Who can find it fast?
a day?
It's 40 to 50 a month.
Right, but 2 years ago, we were getting over 10,000 a day.
Well,
At some of the peak times.
different counting method,
Okay.
so that, those aren't comparable. So, but it is definitely.
It is definitely going down.
Yes.
So that's another reason we need to address that. It indicates that one of our key marketing tools is not being used as well as it should be.
Like you said, 10,000 hits a day?
A couple of years ago, we were getting 10,000 hits a day. But we're using a slightly
Yeah,
different
yeah,
pen.
yeah.
That's not comparable.
Pardon?
From individual people?
Yes,
Sure.
those are individual unique hits.
It's hits versus click-throughs. So they might.
If you were to go through every page, it would be much, much larger.
I have no issue with what you actually said.
Okay.
I'm in. Let me just define. I guess the question that I have is, so then taking it a step further, thinking about the profile of the person who does the online searching and stuff, and as we think about rolling this, as they get to execution stage and rolling it out, is there a plan to either beta test it with a group of folks that would probably score fairly high of current users online today? And then what's your thought, at least, about what's the right vehicle to get the broader public aware of kind of a new format from an online? Because as I think about people who have been used to the same kind of online interface for several years now, sometimes doing diametric shifts causes a little bit of consternation.
Mhm.
And so as I think about kind of what does that glide path look like?
Right. The design process, big picture.
Yeah.
They meet with our staff, they have preliminary needs, they come back with an initial design. We would look at some stuff with them as well, so we're both speaking the same language. Once we've come to a good beta at this point, we would invite a number of people in to take a look at it and give us feedback on that. We would go back then to the developer for revision. We would take a look at that, maybe invite them back again, and we could do that quickly. When we get to where we think we have a workable release, what we would do is at least 2 weeks before the actual release. You don't want to do too far out in advance because then people start wondering why it didn't happen. But 2 weeks beforehand, we would do articles of patch, Trip Local, the Champion. We would have Books and Beyond. We would time this so that it wouldn't happen until the second month of a Books and Beyond. So we would have an article about me in there. We would have some sample screenshots of the initial landing page.
Right.
We would have landing pages for each of the key service areas. So there would be a shot of the youth services landing page, the adult reference landing page, anything else we could identify as a key place that somebody might come to first. We would probably start doing some classes here on that as well. We have this facility, and we would offer cookies and milk, or cookies and coffee, or orange juice, or whatever. An opportunity to come in and see it live, or we would do a canned presentation in the Baxter Room. We also have our TV down in our lobby where we run YouTube videos of whatever's new and interesting. You may have noticed the 2 videos we've done and placed on YouTube for Tech Fest. We would run videos on the new page. We also have photo slideshow screens at each of our service desks. And we would run signage and a couple of samples of the landing pages on that too. So we would try and saturate during the 2 weeks before the rollout, the public on numerous different media. And we've done stand-up posters on all the tabletops in the library as well. We can do that too, so that people know that this is happening. Would that get everybody? No. There's always going to be someone who's
Sure.
going to call us up and say, what did you do to your webpage? And we will walk through some scenarios and scripts for handling those and helping people understand as well. Another thing we could do is on our public service internet PCs, we have some control over the screen you see before you log in. And while we may not be able to show an example of the new homepage on that, we could at least run a scroll telling you that this is coming as well. And that would get a very targeted audience. Those are people who know our computer centric. We also do a splash screen and an acknowledgement screen when you come log onto our Wi-Fi network. We can modify that to talk about the fact that there's a new webpage coming as well, which also gets us a targeted group of users who are going to be hitting our website. So we could hit everything but the radio, because we don't have a radio station. And advertising websites over radio, I don't know how well that works, but we can do paper, we can do mass media, we can do visuals in the library, both moving and non-moving visuals, we can do training, we can do targeted presentations, we go to a number of different sites. I mean, we'll build it into our repertoire stuff. We have a school liaison librarian who goes to all the schools in the area. We'll do handouts that go home in the school packets. So we will make sure that people know this is happening, but I guarantee you we will not hit everybody, and that we will get
No,
questions,
of course not.
which become teachable moments.
Right. Thank you for being 10 steps ahead.
How much is the grant for?
The grant was, if I recall correctly, $22,641, I believe.
Because American Eagle has 22,000.
Right, that gets us just below the grant
Yeah,
amount.
I mean, is there, how much, now WebLinks was 14.4, and I've heard good things about WebLinks, I
Okay.
believe the park district did. What makes it $7,500 better from your vantage point?
Well, part of the issue is that because the grant is for website redesign, we would have to find some way to spend that money on website redesign anyway. Because American Eagle marked out better in a number of areas than WebLinks did, and we met with them twice, and I was very impressed with them.
Just from your
My experience is that we would get more for our dollar, even though it is more from American Eagle.
as long as it's covered.
Yeah. They have the depth of their operation. They walked us through their process for a couple hours, Kevin and I. And I spent 20 years in the software industry, and I've done software redesign, and I was very impressed with what they've done. And they have a training component that I think is better than WebLinks.
That was my issue too. I did have a long conversation with Brian Sullivan from the Morton Grove
Mhm.
Park District. And I asked him about his experience with WebLinks and asked him if he had it to do all over again, would he go with WebLinks? And he said unequivocally yes. And he said that not only did they give them several ways to design it, that there was wonderful interface between the people and the
Mhm.
design, between the people at the library and the art district actually, and the designers, and beta tests were involved, and also that they like them so much that they're currently using them for their redesign. Is, since that bid is 30% less, is there any mandate that we have to spend $22,000 if we can get the same service for $14,000?
The question becomes the unspent balance needs to be spent on web design. That's what the grant is for and what it's targeted for. That's what the board committed to when we wrote the grant last year to the state.
And so could it be for a future web design?
No, we have to expend all monies by a certain date in at the end of 2011.
So WebLinks is gonna lose the contract because they didn't bid high enough?
No.
No, that's not what I heard. I didn't hear it that way.
No, that is not at all what I said. Please don't construe my statement that WebLinks isn't as good as American Eagle in our evaluation that WebLinks is not an acceptable company. But American Eagle, in terms of training, the design process, their willingness to work with us through multiple revisions, the depth of their development team, and the number of similar sites that they've worked with that match our business model, I think is better and puts them above WebLinks in this. If American Eagle hadn't competed, then WebLinks may very well have gotten the job, but I'd have to see who else had bid at that time. But based on the 3 bidders that we have, and because that cost is, the money for this is not out of the budget. If we were looking at the budgeted thing and we set budget money aside for this, yeah, we'd be looking very seriously at WebLinks. But it does not mean that WebLinks offered an inferior product such that they weren't acceptable, but that American Eagle offers a superior product that fits within the amount of money that we are mandated to spend on this.
If we accepted WebLinks, would we be able to turn back the unused portion of the money?
I don't know how the state library would actually deal with that. But my evaluation is still that American Eagle is a superior company.
30% superior?
Well,
In your
with-
talks, yeah, sorry,
Sorry, go ahead.
let me just,
Yeah.
in your talks with the Park District, have they evaluated American Eagle when they were going through their bidding process? Do you know?
I didn't ask them that question. I just asked them about the results and the process. I asked them about the initial process of dealing with WebLinks, asked them about the initiation of the original site, and then since they chose them to do the update, what their support was during the entire time of the contract. And what they were especially pleased with was the rapid response of any query that was made to them. The responsiveness of the staff and the knowledgeability of the staff, the fact that their team was very receptive to everything the Park District wanted. Any way that I asked a question of him, I couldn't get him to say anything negative about WebLinks.
I was just trying to find out if there was an apples to apples comparison when they went through their process from a proposal standpoint, and if it was similar candidates or not. So if it wasn't, and I'm just trying to find out from you, like if you had known and do that at the time, so.
No, I was just looking for the results.
I think you'll find the library is much more complex in its needs than the Park District. Think about it.
Kevin, you have an opinion?
Well, one additional point, which Ben kind of got mentioned part of, is that they have done more libraries and similar agencies than the others, which is obviously good, not a sole deciding factor, but they've also done a lot of very high-profile, high-powered sites. He mentioned the White House, also Chicago Bears, other places like that. Places or organizations that are going to demand to be at the cutting edge, pushing the technology, and therefore American Eagle is, likely going to be further down that technological road, and those things can roll down to us, certainly not the same pace
Would we
as.
be paying more for the cachet of the fact that they have those high
I
power?
don't think so. I mean, I've never heard of the company before. So, I mean, web design companies are not names that people know, unless you're actually looking at them. It's like a brand name that the general public is aware of. But it just follows, because of the other kinds of sites they have, they are going to be closer to the leading edge of technology. And not that we need to be there, certainly, but it can't help but have a beneficial effect on us, that we will get the benefits of their knowledge as it's being driven by these other organizazations.
And it was your opinion then that,
Yes, yes, we agree completely on that. Yeah.
Are you gonna make a motion to accept the bid?
I make a motion that we accept the bid.
American Eagle.
Second. Second.
We'll need a roll call vote because there's some money to be spent. Unless is there any other discussion about it?
Albers?
Call the roll.
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Hoffman?
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Queen,
And yes.
unanimous. That's a
Okay,
pleasure.
thank you, it's a long time in coming. Redesign of the website.
First one, and it's all unanimous. Awesome.
All right, do we want to approve the wellness screening? You want to walk us through that?
Sure. There was a short blurb on this in your packets. The library belongs to a insurance group called the Wellness Insurance Network. That is the network that we're part of. The board switched us from Blue Cross Blue Shield last year at a significant savings, about $50,000 in health insurance costs. Members of the Wellness Insurance Network are all public libraries at this point in the northern Illinois area. They do an annual screening at 2 or 3 libraries in the fall. They have asked, because we have the Baxter Room and a large space to do that, if they could hold one of the screenings here. It would not be an imposition on our operations. It's usually done early in the morning. We have nothing scheduled at that time. There is no cost to this. It's during our normal hours. We would just be using a space that would be otherwise empty. There would be some setup.
Is this a one day?
It's a one-day event.
Is it for only our staff?
No, it will be for other members of the Wellness Insurance Network, but that includes a number of our staff who are covered under that.
Mr. Shapiro, you're vice president of the Wellness Network, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry, of Innovation, I'm sorry. The email came from Innovation Experts.
Right.
You're vice president of Innovation Experts.
I am on the
Is that
board of
correct?
Innovation Experts, yes.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Is there a connection between innovation experts and the,
Wellness Insurance Network?
yeah, the wellness?
Yes. Well, Innovation Experts handles the billing to member libraries.
Since you have a connection, can you get them to pay for the bananas and the apples and muffins?
Sure. I think they were going to anyway, so.
Cut.
No, they were going to pay for the bananas and the apples and the muffins anyway, so, yeah, we're good.
How much extra insurance would we need to cover this event?
None.
We're insured 24 hours, 7 days a week.
It's a good deal for the employees.
Yes.
You talking liability insurance?
Mhm.
Really, we are covered.
We're only hosting the space. The presenter is the required insured on this, so that would be the Wellness Insurance Network itself.
I make a motion that we approve this and decide for the one day event.
I'll say that.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 All opposed? Now you want to go to tree removal. We have 2 sick trees. There are 3
Two very
bids.
sick trees.
Trees that eventually will either just collapse on their own or blow down in a windstorm and do serious damage to either other trees or the building.
May I ask?
Please not the
building.
May I ask who determined that the blue spruce is bad?
John, who is a village employee who handles our groundskeeping.
Johnny Mitchell,
Johnny Mitchell?
Yeah,
no, not Johnny Mitchell, Johnny. The head landscaper in town.
It's got all new growth on it, has one dead branch.
it loses several branches a month. We actually had somebody else take a look at it, and according to them, it has needles disease. And it's been shedding branches over.
Because blue spruce generally will,
I understand.
the lower branches, the upper branches are fine.
No, we've been losing some.
Because of the shade factor.
Right. But I've had 2 sources tell me over a period of a couple of years that tree needs to come
Because I
down.
know the maple's in trouble.
Yeah, the maple is diseased.
The maple could blow down and if you got a liability issue.
Right. The maple definitely needs to go.
And we could always talk to the village about replacing the trees once they're gone.
Oh, yeah.
That is that. So,
Better ask fast, they don't have much money for trees right now. You better ask
That's
fast,
not, by the
they
way,
only
that's
got
not a Norway
$4,000 for
tree.
trees.
That's a Schwedler maple.
okay, you gonna walk us through the bids?
There are 3 bids. Sunrise came in at $1,155. That's including removal of the tree, its debris, and then grinding and filling in where the stump was. Niels Johnson was at 1,105, and
Sunrise is like $12.75, isn't that?
it's $12.75 if you include the 120. There is another maple that has a limb that they feel needs to be guide. I've looked at that tree. I've actually had Sunrise do work on my own property. I've been very pleased with them. And they've guided trees for me and some of my neighbors, and it's preserved the tree for a considerable period of time. The other bid is from Autumn Tree, which basically is the removal of the 2 trees and some stump grinding.
It's
1,069. They're all reputable firms. If you feel that the other maple needs to be preserved by having a limb wired, then I would recommend we go with Sunrise. Otherwise, it's a wash to me. We could go with a little bit.
I recommend we go with Niels Johnson.
I like them too. Johnson. Nothing against Sunrise.
No. The only problem I've ever had with Sunrise is getting the actual respond in a timely fashion, but.
So there's a motion to accept the bid from Niels Johnson. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? Art, we need a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Albers,
Yes.
Berg,
Yeah.
myself, yes,
Yes.
yes. I'm sorry, I'll get you.
Yes.
You can't vote except the second time.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
Peters
Yes.
and Quinn.
Yes.
We look at the HVAC stuff.
Those bids have not arrived, so that's off the agenda.
Okay.
We'll put it on for next month. Just so you know, we did have to replace the compressor yesterday on one unit. Fortunately, it was under our maintenance contract, so there was no additional cost. It's the third compressor in 5 years on that particular unit.
Now, since I am just sitting in as a temporary president and one of the secretary of the board, we need to fill the board presidency. I would strongly suggest that that would be the first agenda item of next meeting. So you guys can think about it, whether you want to do it and think about who you want to nominate, or unless you want to do it right now. There's,
We're ready to move
I
on.
would move now, at least we can get organized for next month.
okay, so we take nominations.
I would move that Mark Albert be nominated for president of the board.
I second that.
Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Mark is now the president. Now we do, could we do these as secretary next month? And Mark, your first actions as president will be exciting board members to their committees. Art will be treasurer still, and, because he still has time on his term.
One more year.
And
You're not allowed to be more.
there'd be 2 on the building committee, 2 on the building committee, 2 on the policy committee, and then 1 more person on the finance
So you
committee.
got finance, building policy,
That's it.
You can nominate.
Those are the 3 standing
You
committees.
can nominate people on committees, but we're under the impression that we are also to elect a treasurer tonight.
No, the treasurer's position was not open.
I don't think that's the case.
The treasurer was appointed treasurer listed,
Elected treasurer.
elected treasurer less than 2 years ago, and he's still on the board.
Yeah, I'm asking you here.
Here's the relevant
My
section.
reading of the Illinois Local Library Act, and my computer ran out of battery, so I can't pull it up, but I think it's
Oh, I have it
chapter,
here.
it's 4-6. Says once, is this verbatim?
Yep.
So, 4-6 says, within 60 days after their election or appointment, the trustee shall take the oath of office and meet to organize the board. The required oath may be taken and subscribed before the secretary or secretary pro tem of the library board, the county clerk of the library containing all or a larger portion of the library, the judge entering an order for establishment of the referendum, or before any person authorized to administer oaths. The first action taken at the organizational meetings of the board shall be the election of a president and a secretary and such other officers as the board may deem necessary, and the board shall further provide in the bylaws of the board as to the length of the terms in office. The trustee shall determine the time and the place of all official meetings of the board at which any legal action may be taken, and shall post notice thereof at the public library maintained by the board and at not less than one public place within the corporate confines of the area of library service 1 day in advance thereof.
Is that the initial organization of a board?
Nah, actually, I read, I didn't know what you guys were gonna be asking me when you asked me to come to me, so I read the whole act. And, the sections before it are how to fill a vacancy. The section before that is, if I had an internet connection, I could pull it up, but,
I have an internet connection here.
you want to let,
right
yeah,
here?
you want to pull the edge
Sure
up.
can.
You know, so, there's two things.
It might turn off at 9 when the library closes.
There's two things. Number one, I think that's any time there's an election, but more to the point, one of the, powers of a library board is to adopt bylaws. You guys already have adopted bylaws, but this new board could come in at their next meeting and revise the bylaws, and the revised bylaws could say, we're going to elect a president and a secretary every month or every, week. So just because your officers were elected in the past, I think the newly elected board can make a determination to elect further ones.
You can come over, you gotta come over here. This is great. You.
I think we're just gonna refer this.
Just.
Okay.
So I don't need that. You just go ahead.
She is an attorney.
Find something.
We're gonna keep you secretary, don't we?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Mine's not charged. Do I need it?
Here, let's see, but there's just a legality question here.
Yeah.
Well,
Good, I know there's only one vacancy of an officer, and that would be the president.
But,
As of this
but that's,
moment.
no, the statute on vacancies is on board members. Your office rules, your officer rules come from your bylaws.
Bylaws.
Your bylaws can be, I'm way more familiar with the Illinois Municipal Code than the Local Library Act. But basically, there's a law in the Illinois Municipal Code that says one board can't bind another board. So let's say, for example, like, I know you guys didn't do this, but let's say, for example, the month before this meeting, you guys adopted bylaws that said, the officers we have will stay for the next, 20 years or something like that. You can't do that to the newly elected people that come in. So on one hand, I can pull up the act and I can tell you, it's my opinion that with the new election comes new officers. But even if I was wrong, at your next meeting, this board could adopt new bylaws that say, right after the election, we adopt, we elect new officers. So I think your end result is going to be the same if that's where you guys are going.
Okay, well, so is there a motion to elect a new treasurer?
I move that we elect Dan Hoffman as secretary for this board.
I'll second.
Okay, I'd be willing to do it. So that actually didn't have to be a motion because I am already secretary of the board. Basically. But all in favor?
Aye.
Dan?
Yeah. I will make a motion to nominate Catherine Peters as the new treasurer.
I'll second that motion.
You want free
Thank
time.
you, that's very magnanimous.
No, I don't know if you know the work that's involved.
He's smiling.
You're absolutely right, very well said.
All right, all in favor?
Right.
Sorry. No, I want to ask a question, I'm sorry. Just before I agree, I mean, to be clear, it's majority, but I just want to understand. No, you do not, I mean, there is awareness as to what you're taking on and from a, I just want to double check.
I was a compliance officer for a hospital. I
I'm
was
double
in
checking,
charge
just
of
to
making
get
sure there was
this
no fraud or abuse being on either the medical side or the financial side of the hospital.
So I think that is a yes.
That's a yes.
Thank you, that's all I
You're
need.
welcome.
Okay, we'll start next meeting.
Well, we're
No,
not
you
finished.
did that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Finished.
No, Mark is
We're
now.
point here.
Trustee Alves is now present.
Oh,
So
I,
he's,
I can finish the meeting.
So you just gotta move to adjourn.
We have communications, I'm not aware of any. I mean, communications are usually.
One important.
Yes.
Bulls 93, Hawks 73.
Oh,
Say that again?
93.
Bulls 93, Hawks 73.
And I will move to adjourn.
Second.
Can I